our predictions for hopefully the August 2022 ban list. A big 30% of you guys have not smashed the crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up, you guessed it, the 100k ladder here. So I went through Tier Maker, just kind of taking a look at some of these tier lists, and I saw this interesting tier list. So I figured we'd go ahead and give us an interesting discussion. Now, let's talk about Stormwind here. I'm just putting it here as a temporary placemaker before you're like, oh my gosh. Now, I don't, as much as Stormwind presents a problem and creates like this, you know, pseudo unplayable game state that Plunder kind of sets up here, this is the card that basically makes Plunder able to function. Now, I think if you remove this card from the equation, you end up hurting Plunder. I'm honestly, I think, fine with leaving this unlimited. I think a lot of players are going to be like, no, Robbie, barrier statue should be banned. Well, I do agree with that sentimentality a lot. I think just straight leaving Flunder alone as a rogue competitive strategy, I think adds more to the table. How many more times this card would be an issue due to win strategies? I don't know, but we'll leave it at just that. Now, Change of Heart. Now, I was thinking about this the other day. You know, Mind Control is still limited to 1. And I looked at Change of Heart and I was like, you know, do I really want to move Change of Heart to 2 on an upcoming ban list? To be honest with you, I don't think they're going to touch the card because, honestly, if you move this to 2 and you leave Mind Control at 1, obviously, this is just obviously a way better Mind Control at the end of the day. But if you start to mess around with these ratios, people will play those 3. Like, the 2 is whatever at 1/1 each, but if you create a loop where you have like 2 Change of Heart, 1 Mind Control, yeah, they'll play these just to out things. All right, like that's all there is to it. So I think for the sake of this argument, like this card will stay at 1. Though I guess moving it in Mind Control to 2 would be very hilarious in terms of game state. Hulk, get this card straight out of the game. All right, I know this card facilitates Scythe lock. This facilitates, you know, Dagda interactions. This card is so unhealthy at this point in time. You know, with the recent pushes on the last ban list, seeing, you know, Hulk move to 1, you know, it's almost like we follow a pattern here in terms of the TCG with movements, all right? It's almost like they're getting this ready to see a future hit here. Wow. So I just would prefer just to straight remove the problem out of the game. I know a lot of people have very different opinions on this card, but I think the general... Somebody actually tried to argue with me the other day saying that Hulk is fine. I'm like, you're crazy, man. Like, this card facilitates so much BS in terms of the game. It's whatever. Harpora. Unlike Colossus, who is a pseudo floodgate that every deck can have access to through Nemesis Corridor. Yeah, I know, just ban Nemesis Corridor if I've had. I don't personally have a problem with moving Harpora to 1. I think some of the interesting things that this card would create for the game would be way more interesting than what we have right now. Like, this and Colossus are like the last 2 pieces that are locked up from Eternal format. I think that this can actually do its thing now. I think 1 copy, yeah, allows Orcus to come back as like a splashable engine, sure. Maybe that's what Konami's worried about, is like how much splashability will Orcus have as a package at the end of the day, but I think it's fine. Like, I don't see a reason to keep this locked up. Now, if you're trying to like do this, no, not yet. Let it come back at 1. We'll test the waters with it, and we'll see how it goes. Now, Scythe, I have a very unpopular opinion here. I think Sanctum with Scythe was fine when it was like more rogue based. I think your issue is Dagda. I would much rather remove Dagda from the equation and let Scythe do its thing, but I have very like polarizing views on like floodgate-esque effects. Like, the issue with Scythe was like, yeah, you can still like Baron revive it through like the Ben 10, but like that's a lot more work that you've got to see them do at the end of the day to get to this. And while a lot of players would rather just straight nip this in the butt, I see an argument for either Scythe or Dagda, but one piece of these 2 need to go. All right, Spoke of Judgment. So here's a very interesting take on this card. Spellbook of Judgment helped out Sky Striker immensely in the OCG. Very early on. We saw, what was it, week 1, week 2, some of the coolest Spellbook decks that I've seen in a very long time take off. And it was really cool to like see the ideas and strategies that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players were doing to kind of, do this. Same thing with Runic getting Spellbook of Judgment. I think Spellbook of Judgment moving to 1, while it does facilitate like some crazy vacuum plays at the end of it, that's about it. Like, you just generate a bunch of advantage, put a Jowgen on the field. Putting a Jowgen on the field, it's a barrier statue. Yay, you droplet it, you out it through some sort of removal. Alright, like, I think it's fine to come back. I really do. Like, I feel like in order to capitalize for the best advantage off of Spellbook of Judgment, you have to build your deck around it. And if you're doing that, I think a lot of players are going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, it takes a little bit more dedication and specifics to get the real advantage of this. I want Italy back at semi. I'm going to be honest with you, the card going to 3 was just too crazy. Like, if you just wrap this up on a nice little bow and you're like, 3 was too much, if you stick it back to 2, I think it's fine. This is just a reverse course. I know a lot of people would prefer it to be here in 1, but I think you're pushing for too much of a loss of consistency by doing that. Alright, I'm fine with doing this. Now, Mystic Mind, this is always an interesting piece when you look at the community. Now, the thing that makes Mystic Mind unfair is the fact that you can play it in decks that normally you wouldn't bring in back or removal for. Now, if you're playing this in, say, something like, Tier Elements, yeah, and you just slap it on the field, yeah, that's BS. I think in every other sense, mine is fine as long as there's an appropriate amount of spell and trap card hate in the format. Does it become a necessary evil when compared to Max C? I mean, that's subjectively based on the players of the community. I think a lot of people have looked at this card and went, it is as bad as Max C, or it's the TCG's version of Max C. And I'm going to leave it in Unlimited just because I enjoy the chaos that this package brings to the table. So many people get so angry at this. Rider of Armesier. So, the whole Brave package here, 2/2 would be interesting. I can see the TCG doing something like this, though. They put the Searcher to 2, leave Riot at 3, or they go like this and do like a 1/3. I could see this. I could see the TCG, or they just go like this. There's a lot of interesting combinations that the TCG could do to kind of check this package. I do think the Searcher ends up being the most busted part of it, because it can pull from the graveyard or whatnot. But Water Enchantress being an extender for the deck does feel a little bit crazy. But overall, like, once again, if we're banning Hawk, we're taking care of, like, something in the Dagda package. I mean, I think this is... I'm going to leave this Unlimited for now. I don't have a reason for this. People hate D-Shifter. I think D-Shifter's a necessary evil, especially with the Ishizu package coming later on here. I know a lot of people, once again, oh my god, Floodgates are so bad, but, like, come on. If this is the only reason why I can play against a deck, then let me draw it when I want to play that. I think that's just crazy to me, that players are like, oh, this is so... It's fine. Sword Soul Rhoda... I have a feeling that, like, the TCG is going to slap Sword Soul on the wrist and be like, no, we're putting your Searcher to 1. Like, especially, like, if Sprite into Your Elements format comes out and you're just like, oh, yeah, by the way. So they put the Searcher to 1 and you're just like, but what was the point of that? Like, Sword Soul didn't need to get hit. Like, the format changes itself. I have a feeling that's just, like, the most TCG thing for them to do. Like, put it to 1. Shouldn't go to 1. Alright, don't get me wrong on that, but that's something they would do. Sim Mighty, I don't know why this card is still locked up on the list. Like, I don't see any reason for this do its thing. Anti-Spell Fragrance, I think, is also fine at 3. I know so many people are like, I hate Anti-Spell Fragrance. Well, that's cool. I think it's, once again, one of those necessary evils for the game. Like, yeah, it's Imperial Order, but, like, I don't know, man. I know a lot of people would prefer just to have it limited to 1, but I don't know. Once again, as you notice, like, the decks get more powerful, the stronger the older Floodgates get. Wow. It's almost like that's a strange thing. And then I think Yatagarasu can honestly come to 3. I don't have a reason for this card to stay locked up. Like, I guess they'll probably move it to semi-limit first, just kind of test the waters on it, but I think it's good to move off the next list. So that's my my hot take for the upcoming ban list. How much needs to actually be hit? Well, that's up in the air. Guys, please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you're saying. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.